What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Year Keaton. He's going to be our next free unit from the New Year Tempest Trial, and this is going to be a comprehensive analysis of him. I'm also going to be going over a lot of builds that you could run on him and if it's worth spending your Heroic Grails on him or not. And if you're new here, then do consider subscribing because I make a lot of free-to-play unit reviews, many guides, and just a lot of fake content. So with that said, I hope you guys do enjoy and let us begin.
I'll be loyal and stay by your side all year if that's what you want. But only if you ask extra nicely.
Year Keaton this time around is a Green Infantry beast. So he has got a preferred weapon in Resolved Fang, which is a 14 might exclusive weapon, giving him +3 defense, and at start of combat, if the foe's HP is above 75%, then he gets +5 defense to himself, and he inflicts the -5 defense debuff on the foe during the combat. And then if he has got more defense than the foe, then he deals 70% of the damage between their defense. So this kind of effect is pretty reminiscent of Vassal's Blade, Giga Excalibur, and Raven King Claw, which Naysala had. So instead of boosting the damage by speed, it boosts his damage by defense, and this is pretty unique. So he can get maximum of +7 true damage, and the true damage definitely helps him a lot because he already has such a high attack stat, so it increases his damage output even more. And the first condition of his weapon can essentially give him a 10-point stat differential between his and the foe's defense, because he can inflict -5 defense debuff and he also gets +5 defense. So essentially you could say that he's getting +5 attack and +5 defense, which is pretty standard for a lot of weapons these days, even inheritable ones. So this is pretty nice for activating the secondary effect of the condition to get more true damage. And finally, he has got the standard infantry beast effect, where at start of turn, if he's not near any kind of human ally, then he can transform and he can get +2 attack by that. And he also deals +10 damage when the special triggers. So this +10 damage is going to be true damage, so he can essentially get +17 true damage with his weapon, which can definitely be pretty nice with his already high attack stat. Speaking of his attack stat, he has got 41 base attack, which is really high. And he also has an attack super boon in it, allowing him to reach 180 BST after the first merge, and that is really good for arena scoring. His stat spread is quite typical, just having very high attack, very high defense, but having extremely low speed and resistance. So it's a pretty standard one that we have seen many times on many units, and having a super boon and attack stat definitely helps him with this kind of weapon that can increase his damage output. Comparing Keaton to his original self, he's kinda similar, having attack, HP and defense, and having very low speed and resistance. Wolfskin Fang is just a superior weapon, having that dual phase brave effect. That would have been too strong, I guess, for a free to play unit, so that's why he doesn't really have that. And as for the comparison with similar free to play units, we have a lot of physical Green Infantry units that we could compare him to. These are the most recent ones, Ninja Hana and Calic. So Ninja Hana is of course the most unique one out of all of these because she has got incredibly high speed. So she can function in both phases thanks to that speed, and she can also be deceptively bulky if she runs the damage reduction skill. Calic on the other hand is not going to be having as high of a defense as Keaton of course, but he trades that for having way more resistance. So that's pretty much the trade-off. From the normal summoning pool, we also have similar Green Infantry units. Mustafa is also a similar one, having low speed but having high attack and bulk. So Mustafa has got way better resistance. Ross on the other hand has got a bit better speed and definitely better resistance than Keaton, which is not hard to have. We also have Tempest Trial Reward units in Groom Hinata and Daros. Year Keaton is basically a better Groom Hinata, honestly. Keaton can stand out because of his preferred weapon, but he also does not have access to any inheritable weapon like these other units can. Keaton's playstyle is enemy phase oriented. He wants to take a lot of hits on the physical side with his high defense and shrug them off and do a lot of damage back with his high attack stat and having true damage from his weapon. He does not have very high resistance, which means that it's really easy for any kind of magical unit to one-shot him, and he's gonna get doubled by pretty much everyone because of his low speed. As for his base kit, he has got Sturdy Blow 2 at 5-star and Attack Defense Link at 3-star. At this point, I'm sounding like a broken record. Intelligence systems again not giving us any useful or new skills on these Grail units. We do have Attack Defense Link on Itsuki, and even if you don't want to fodder off Itsuki, we do have Mordecai in the normal summoning pool who does have Attack Defense Link. So again, giving this as a repeated skill does really make a lot of sense. We have got so many skills which still haven't demoted, and Sturdy Blow being logged at 5-star is just absolutely hilarious in 2020, especially because Keaton himself is more of an enemy phase unit, I would say. He can definitely hit hard in the player phase, but something that could have worked with the enemy phase would have been pretty nice. Keaton is a Tempest Trial unit, so he's going to be requiring 2,700 grails to plus 10 merge, which is definitely pretty expensive. And let's look over some of the reasons why you may or may not want to invest into him. So he does have incredibly high defense and very high damage output, so that's definitely something, if you like, you could try to build him up. With his preferred weapon and his high defense, it's really easy to get plus 7 true damage, which is the max which you could get out of his weapon, so that is pretty nice. And he does score 180 BST, as I said, with the attack super boon, and unlike many of the Grail options, he doesn't really require a 300 SP slotsy skill to have the max arena scoring because he has got a preferred weapon, so he can definitely be a pretty good candidate for arena scoring and can be used as a score stick. He does have pretty good matchups as well against many of the arena threats like Legendary Crom, Legendary Leaf, and other, hard-hitting physical units. But keep in mind, you're going to be facing a lot of mages there as well, so that is definitely his weakness. And that brings us to the reasons why you may not want to invest into him. He has a very glaring weakness with extremely low speed and having low resistance. He is very susceptible to getting doubled by pretty much everything, and we also have a very speed-oriented metagame. And a lot of the fast units who have damage reduction skills, they're going to be getting the max damage reduction against someone as slow as Keaton. He also has low resistance, making him really susceptible to dragons, staff units with Wrathful Staff, and just mages in general. And we have seen some really powerful magical units in general, so you gotta keep Keaton away from them. Now, beast units are made or broken by their preferred weapons because they don't have any kind of inheritable options like the other physical Green Infantry units have, which I showed before. So Keaton is pretty much stuck with his weapon. It's a pretty decent weapon itself, but he still has no alternate inheritable options, unlike the axe units who can just change their axe to the newest free one which they have in the Grail pool and just enjoy those. Keaton does not have that option, and he does have a restrictive playstyle because of not having inheritable option in general, and that is the case for many of the beast units. And as I showed you before in the comparison, we do have a lot of existing Green Infantry units, so if you have already built them up, then there might not be that much incentive for you to build up another similar high defense and high damage output Green unit. Now Keaton can get the true damage and he can be really bulky, but again, if you have built up, many of the green units which I showed before, then there's really not much incentive there. And in my opinion, he also faces competition from them because they are easier to plus and merge. Mustafa, Ross being the example, they don't take trade fruits, they do not take grails. So if you're low on grails, then Keaton is probably not going to be a very desirable option for you. We also have Ninja Hana, who in my opinion is just a better unit to invest into when it comes to arena because she has the flexibility to work in both phases. She's got access to the damage reduction skills, she's got access to Dex Swapper and many inheritable weapons. So Ninja Hana overall just has so much versatility when it comes to a Green Infantry unit in the free-to-play pool. I wish he was red or maybe colorless, that would have been pretty good. We already have Naysala, Pain. For the blue color, we have Raisin in the 3-star 4-star pool as a green beast. So if he was red or colorless, that would have been pretty sick because he definitely faces competition from the other Grail and mergeable units because of being a green unit. Overall, Keaton, in my opinion, is a pretty decent free-to-play unit that we have got. He does have incredibly good damage output and very high defense, which does make him really good option to counter against many of the physical threats in the metagame. And he can also function as a pretty nice score stick in arena. But he does have very obvious and glaring weaknesses in his speed and resistance, so you definitely have to watch out for those.
New year, new Keaton!
As for his builds, you could run a budget build. Sturdy Stance is a pretty good option because it does give him extra attack and defense, which he really likes. And Bonfire is going to be the go-to special here because he can trigger that on his quick riposte follow-up. He could also run Heavy Blade with some attack support from your allies, and he can definitely trigger that against many of the foes because of having high attack. So Ignis could be triggered in one round thanks to Heavy Blade. And finally, you could also run Guard because he's a very slow unit, he's prone to getting doubled, and he doesn't really like enemies charging up their specials, so Guard can definitely help you. You can also use him as an arena assault unit because he's going to be fantastic there because of his extremely high defense stat. So you could run Lancebreaker to check those plus 10 merge annoying lance units. And sturdy stance along with attack speed solo are going to be giving him plenty of defense and attack to even take care of those annoying plus 10 units. And now I'll go over the builds if you want to plus 10 merge him. So Distant Foil is a pretty good option seeing his high defense stat and high attack stat, and his resistance isn't the highest, so Distant Foil does work out for him. He could deal with dagger units and many of the bow units. Low attack defense is also good for increasing his damage output and just ignoring the buffs of the foes. Joint Drive attack adds to even more attack, so this is basically going to be trying to one-shot many of the units, but if you cannot one-shot, then Quick Riposte Sacred Seal is always there. You could straight up run Distant Counter if you don't really care about Distant Foil, and at plus 10 investment with max merges, max Dragon Flowers, and with some support from teammates, you can definitely function decently well with Distant Counter and can take on some blue mages at least, because he can one-shot them because of his high attack stat. So Distant Counter is definitely viable at max investment, but if you're using him at lower merges, then Distant Foil may prove to be more useful to you. You could also have a fun build for stacking up true damage. Wrath does stack up with the true damage that he gets from the Infantry Beast effect from Resolve Fang, and he also gets true damage from the primary condition, and along with this he can have 27 true damage, which can be so powerful with a special like Bonfire that scales off his high defense, so he can be devastating with the special, and you could basically retaliate back with Bonfire once you have got Wrath activated, and Time Pulse does help you with that. Now getting into the Wrath range could be tough for a bulky unit like him because he might not take much damage, but once you're in it, he can be such a powerful unit with those high damage specials. You could even run Glimmer if you don't really like the higher cooldown of Bonfire, but of course Bonfire is going to be scaling off based off his high defense. You could also use him as a tank, and tanks do like the guard effect as I said before, so a tier 4 stand skill can be pretty good along with the solo or rouse skills. Attack Defense Unity is also a fantastic skill because it works in both phases, and if he gets debuffed and has two of the most important stats, attack or defense, he can actually power himself up. So in that case, Attack Defense Unity can be a really good option. You can also build up Keaton for one-shotting by having Distant Foil or Distant Counter with Special Spiral and have Attack Defense solo, so this allows you to retaliate back with Bonfire once your Special Spiral is activated, and Bonfire can capitalize on the extra plus 10 damage that you get from Resolve Fang, so this does have really good one-shotting potential with his high damage output and high defense, so this is definitely something Keaton is capable of doing if you don't really want to run Quick Riposte or anything like that. As I said before, you could definitely have fun with true damage with Wrath, and Glimmer can be an option as a low cooldown special, so Glimmer can be charged up for him to attack with in the player phase as well, so the lower cooldown can help you if you want to go with that. Keaton can also be a very annoying unit for many teams because of his extremely high defense stat, so if you run him with max investment and Aether Raid's defense, then he could definitely check some of the Vantage units like Kronia or many of the Broadleaf Fan Sweepers because he's just so bulky on his defensive side, especially if you run an Aether Raid's defense skill. So he could be ridiculously bulky, and he can also nuke hard with Bonfire if you pre-charge it. Now finally, let's talk about some of the arena builds. As I said before, he can be a pretty good arena score stick, and the first build can definitely be something that many people can easily go for because he doesn't require a 300 SP Slotsy skill, so it does lower the overall cost of building him up as a score stick, and that can be really helpful for a free-to-play player. So the first build can definitely work out for you, but if you want to invest more into him, then you can run Distant Foil, and this can give you extra defense and attack for dealing with many of the ranged threats like Legendary Crom, Legendary Leaf, but still I feel like Distant Counter could help you more because in the Earth season, I think with support he can take care of someone like Julia because he could at least barely live one hit and then one-shot her back. So in some scenarios, being able to counter attack to some of the blue mages can actually be useful. And another very important point of why I kind of prefer having Distant Counter over Distant Foil is that in the water season, if you're facing the trio of Legendary Azura, Legendary Crom, and Legendary Leaf, then you could just send him there and he could even bait out Azura because of his low resistance, and because of having Distant Counter, he can one-shot her back. So that can help you eliminate Azura and just, eliminate a lot of annoyance itself. So I kind of prefer distant counter, but of course distant foil is an option. Quick riposte is something that you will need for double attacking stuff like Legendary Crom and many of the faster units, but of course units who run null follow-up or impact skills are going to be proving to be very annoying. He doesn't really need to run a 300 SP Slossy skill, but of course something like Joint Drive Attack is just so universally useful. It can help him with his one-shot potential. And if you're running Ether, then you could definitely run something like Heavy Blade to accelerate the special charges. You could also run Blue Flame on him because he doesn't have access to Ruptured Sky, sadly, because he's a beast unit. So Blue Flame is the next best lower cooldown option if you don't want to run Ether, and you could run Null Attack Defense, which can definitely help you a ton in Arena because everyone and their mom runs rally skills. So that could be done, and have Quick Riposte as your Sacred Seal. And now time for a bonus section. What if Keaton was improved? So if I was in control, this is what I would change. I would make him a colorless infantry beast, which is going to be pretty unique, and I think we could appreciate a unique free-to-play unit like that. And I would also make changes to his weapons. So I would trade the condition, which used to give him more defense and reduce the defense of the foe with the in-combat debuff, for a guaranteed follow-up attack. This allows him to free up his Slot B or Sacred Seal with Quick Riposte, and you could run lull skills or many other options in his Slot B skill, and that could be really good. And it also gives him Mixed Phase utility because he could also double attack in the player phase, which I think is really helpful. So I think I would have done that change because that would work out really well with his low speed. And of course, my biggest gripe all the time is that we don't get new skills. So I would give him Attack Defense Solo and Quick Riposte 3, which is going to be available at 4-star. So this is just a theory craft of what I would have done if I was in control, and what if we could improve Keaton a bit. Let me know in the comments how you like this theory craft, and I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Make sure to share this video with your friends who are thinking of building up Keaton or are big fans of Keaton. They can definitely have a lot of build options in this video. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support. If you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as having Sturdy Blow being 5-star logged in 2020. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.